All right, go ahead.
Hello everybody. I know I've made a couple salsa videos because I love the stuff. My family loves salsa too, so I'm gonna give you the recipe, the secret recipe to the secret sauce, salsa sauce. So right here you got a blender. Mine's a Blendtec. You can use any which one of them, but you'll see that I've kind of chopped it up a little bit. What I've done with the tomatoes is I just ran out of Romas, so I can't really show you what I do with Romas. Romas are the best because they're the meatiest tomato. I like them because you don't have to squeeze as much juice out of them. I like a salsa that's mainly chunky and not as much water to it. So tomatoes have a lot of water to them, so I just take them and I just squeeze them out. Squeeze out all the seeds, squeeze out all the sauce, so you're just left with the pulp. That's what I did with the Romas. I essentially took the Roma and I sliced it, and then down the side, gave it a good squeeze. You can see all the seeds in the sink. And then I just do a little bit of slicing. You don't have to slice these up very small. The reason I slice them up is because once you put them in the blender, you can see they're in there right now. Once I turn the blender on, it bogs it down pretty good because I go in the lowest setting possible, because if you go higher than that, it blends the tomatoes to where it's not a chunky consistency, it's more of a fluid consistency. So there you go, I've just squeezed out. I'm not sure what kind of tomatoes these are. I'm making this for a function tonight, so my mother-in-law gave me these tomatoes, so I'm just using those, and I just squeeze out all the juice that I can, and then I chunk them up. And I don't really have an exact quantity of tomatoes. A lot of people ask, well, how many tomatoes per whatnot? I essentially do by the blender full. So I do about half to 3/4 full of tomatoes. Do one bunch of cilantro, and then about a half of a yellow onion. Yellow onion because they have more flavor. They've got a little more oomph to them. If you don't like a flavorful onion, if you don't like it too powerful, then I'd go more with a white onion. But I like the yellow onion. It seems to give that extra kick sauce. Cilantro is awesome if you like it. I used to hate it when I was a kid. I used to think it was the most disgusting thing ever made, and I can't believe people actually cook with it. And my mom loved Mexican food, so she cooked a lot with it. She would save some out for the rest of us without cilantro. My sisters say the stems have a lot of flavor to them. So they'll probably hate me for saying this, but I don't find it. I find it more flavor in the leaves, and the stems seem to be a little bit more bitter. Could be just my own wives' tale that I'm making up, but that's kind of the way I see it. I have a very sharp knife. I just have one knife I use for everything. Got this for Christmas a few years ago. But it's a really sharp knife. Anyway, it makes your life a lot better. I've cut my finger on it before and had to have my brother-in-law sew me up. Won't tell you which one, you can guess. But he does not do much sewing on the finger. But I'll show you my scar right there. Right there.
Couldn't see it.
Oh, that's okay. Just have to believe me. Okay, so you can see you got some tomatoes. I've got a bunch of cilantro. Now I'm gonna take a onion about yay size. I use about half an onion. You can use as much, more or less, depending on your flavor of onion. Don't judge me on how I cut things. This is a pretty big onion. I thought my knife was sharp, but I'm just kind of doing a controlled slice. You guys probably have different ways of cutting things. You can let me know in the comments, or you can just run into me and tell me, hey, this is the way I do things. It's always a fun conversational startup piece. I also chunk up the onions just a little bit, enough to where I can get them in the blender and get them so it doesn't, again, bog down the blender. can see the blender's not quite full, so I'm gonna add more tomatoes to get it full, and then that's how I gauge how much salt I use. Salt's a tricky thing. It's always kind of tough to really gauge it. I used to use just my fingers, or just my hand. I'd pour our salt into my hand, and I'd fill like the cup of my hand, the palm, and about that much would be what I would use. And then I'd add more or take away some. Turns out to be, it's about a tablespoon of salt per blenderful. So it's, and that also depends though. Depends on your chip saltiness. So some chips have more salt on them, they come salted, some do not. So depending on which salsa or what chip source you use, is whether you need more or less salt. Man, good thing my mother-in-law gave me extra tomatoes. So how do you say it, tomato or tomato? Well, I probably should have washed all these beforehand. That would have made it a lot easier. The problem is, as you know, once you wash a fruit, they tend to mold pretty quickly. So I just kind of wash them as I go. I'll probably need 1 to 3 more. Probably 3 more. That's why we hold off on washing blueberries until you absolutely need them. Otherwise, you mold a whole bunch of them pretty quick. Here's another way of slicing them. I've done, kind of depends on your preference. And probably 1 more. Yeah, that looks about right. Okay. I got this recipe from a friend in college, actually a friend of mine, but she was a girlfriend of my another brother-in-law of mine back in the day. Carolina. Anyway, super sweet little southern type girl. So here you go. It's about a tablespoon. I actually do a little less than a tablespoon. So any more and it gets really salty, and so you can always add a little bit more. But so I always cheat on the lower end of things. You just kind of toss that sucker in there. Okay, secret sauce to secret ingredient soup is white vinegar. I guess you could use other types of vinegars, but this is the one we've tended to use and I tend to like. And I never really, I've never really quantified this, but maybe I should quantify it. I think it's probably about a tablespoon. Let's see how much I usually do. Usually do about that much. Yeah, so it's about a tablespoon. That makes the recipe easy. Usually I don't like to use the same or measuring spoons, because if I'm making different batches, then the salt sticks to it next time. Not that it's a big deal, but it's all about efficiency. Okay, here we go. Look at that. And since this is the Christmas season, check that out. We got the red, the green, and the white. Ho, ho, ho. Once it starts dancing, I stop it, because then the more you grind it, the smaller the pieces get. And like I say, I like it chunky. So every batch comes a little taste test. Make sure that it's okay. Oh yeah, that's good stuff. Highly recommend it. So follow that, and you're gonna thank me, I promise you. I'd like to special thanks to Brock Huffaker for filming this and putting it together in a screen-friendly format. Cheers. See you at the Christmas party.